The most brutal move in the game of power is not destruction. It is not the dramatic explosion of revenge that shakes the walls, nor the public spectacle of confrontation where voices rise and tempers flare. The most devastating move is far quieter. It is silence. It is withdrawal. The kind of silence that hangs heavy in the air. The kind that offers no closure, no explanation, no final word. It does not arrive with warning, nor does it announce itself. It does not need to. For silence has its own voice, a voice that speaks directly to the mind of the one left behind, and the mind cannot ignore it. That silence, that void, becomes a storm of questions. It echoes in corridors of thought, over and over, louder than any shouted word ever could. Because when there is nothing to answer the ache itself grows louder. Machiavelli understood this truth, something most people spend their entire lives avoiding, something most will never dare to accept. Human beings are not truly addicted to love, nor are they addicted to pleasure. What they are most deeply addicted to is certainty, the closure of the circle, the final answer to the lingering question. We crave conclusions. The human mind despises the open loop. It cannot bear unfinished business. It seeks to tie chaos into neat packages, to wrap the unknown into something digestible, something bearable. That is its comfort. That is its security. But when you deny that conclusion, when you refuse to answer, when you leave without a single word, you do more than create confusion. You create a weapon. You turn silence into a blade that cuts not outward, but inward. You plant uncertainty like a seed inside their nervous system, and it grows into poison. Slowly, it spreads, infecting every part of their peace. People say they want happiness. They speak of joy, of pleasure, of contentment. But more than anything, what they truly want is understanding. They want answers. They want to know why it happened, what it meant, how it ended. They believe happiness comes through resolution, through closure. So when you deny them closure, you deny them the very thing they believe will save them. You deny them peace. You deny them freedom. And though they may smile, though they may appear to move forward, their mind keeps circling back, always to the same haunting question. Why? That question becomes the cage. And in that cage, your power begins. Closure is release. It frees people from the weight of you. It allows them to step away, to set down the memory, to let go. But when you leave them without closure, you remain lodged in their psyche. You carve out a permanent place in their thoughts. You own a space in their mental real estate. They become tenants of your silence, unwilling renters of your absence. They live in rooms built from your vanishing, and the rent they pay is their obsession. And it is not confined to romance. It bleeds into arguments, betrayals, casual friendships, and even professional rivalries. People beg for honesty. They demand transparency. They plead for the truth. But what they truly mean is this: please give me peace. Please let me go. And if you give them that peace, if you offer honesty, if you grant them closure, they are free. They walk away lighter. They carry no weight. But if you say nothing, if you vanish into silence, if you let the ambiguity remain, they never walk away at all. They carry you everywhere, into every future conversation, every new encounter, every decision that follows. Even when they believe they have forgotten, the silence replays, echoing like a ghost with no voice, only presence. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote, "Never explain more than you must, because every explanation, every extra word, is a rope you hand to them. A rope they will use to climb out of the mental trap you left them in. The more they understand, the less they need you. The less they understand, the longer they remain enslaved to your image. Look to Shakespeare. The plays have endings. The curtain falls. The audience breathes out. But Machiavelli's lessons, they are not plays. They are not stories. They are principles. And principles do not end. They remain incomplete, open, perpetual. Never give the final page. If you scream in anger, if you pour out your reasons, if you slam the door, you may leave in fury, but you give closure. They may cry for a week. They may rage for a month, but eventually they will sleep. They will heal. But if you leave without a word, without emotion, without warning, they do not sleep. They rewind the tape endlessly, seeking a moment that explains what never arrived. The mind cannot solve the unsolved. It circles endlessly, hunting for meaning, chasing an answer that does not exist. That is why the unfinished is more powerful than the finished. Transparency may be kindness, but mystery is a weapon. The moment you leave the room with no goodbye, you cease to be ordinary. You become myth. You become legend. You become a question mark. And questions are always louder than conclusions. While others shout, explain, defend, justify, you sit above them all, undefined, untouchable. You do not tell people what you are thinking, and suddenly they think for you. You do not reveal your strategy, and now they imagine 5. You do not close the chapter, and they reread it for the rest of their lives. Your silence becomes a mirror. Their paranoia reflects back at them. And you don't even have to move. They carry your weight for you. They say, I just need the truth. But what they are really saying is, please help me stop caring. Please cut the cord for me. If you do it, they are free. But if you don't, they are trapped. And in that trap, in that endless loop, in that obsessive search for answers, your silence holds power. Because in your silence, they do not only find pain, they find something worse. They find dependency. And dependency, in every form, is leverage. We live in a culture that worships clarity. The world preaches, end things properly, be honest, offer closure. But ask yourself who benefits from that. Not you, not the one who leaves. Closure is a gift to the other. It grants them peace. It makes them feel respected, seen, complete. But if they disrespected you, if they underestimated you, if they betrayed you, why should they walk away with peace? Why should they be released? Silence is sharper than any insult. You do not argue. You do not correct. You do not explain. You vanish. And in that absence, they are left carrying the weight of a sentence that has no ending. Every explanation you might have offered would have become a tool. They could use against you something to justify their choices, something to hate, something to box away neatly. But when you give nothing, they cannot even hate you properly. They do not know what to hate, and that uncertainty becomes your shield. Fear fades, pain heals, but uncertainty and certainty lingers. It festers, it rots. It turns into obsession, because the mind cannot stitch a wound it cannot see. And every time the thought returns, the wound reopens. Every time they remember the silence, it bleeds again. Machiavelli would say, if you want control, never give people the key to their own escape. Closure is that key. When you withhold it, you remain the unsolved puzzle they can never put down. You are the unfinished story that keeps calling them back, the unanswered question that burns in their chest at night. And that more than confrontation, more than anger, more than vengeance is power. True power. Not in the form of direct domination, not in the form of brute force, but in the way you embed yourself so deeply in another's framework that even your absence bends their reality around you. Think of the lover. If you end things with a heartfelt message, pouring out honesty and farewell, they cry, they process, they heal. The pain hurts, yes, but eventually it settles. They fold it away into memory. They sleep again. But if you vanish no reason, no fight, no goodbye, they cannot fold it away. They carry you with them into every future bed. They compare, they replay, they wonder endlessly. You linger like smoke they cannot wipe from the air or think of the enemy. You rage, you shout, you explain why you were finished with them. They absorb your anger, and in that clarity, they justify their hate. They know the reason. They understand the battle. They move on. But if you walk away without a sound nothing, no words, no signal, they are left paralyzed. They cannot prepare against you because they do not even know what game they lost. They walk in circles, haunted by a shadow. Even in professional spaces, the law holds true. The colleague you confront eventually shrugs it off and moves forward. But the one you ignore, the one you leave hanging without explanation, they are the ones who start second-guessing every move, doubting their place, wondering what they did wrong. Your silence becomes a spotlight. It does not merely reveal it, magnifies, because what people cannot label, they elevate. They dress it in mystery. They call it depth, complexity, brilliance, and all you did was say nothing. Yet in that nothing, you control the narrative. Because the mind must write a story, and if you refuse to provide one, they are forced to invent it, and in doing so, they carry you with them. The most dangerous part, while they are busy spinning endless stories to explain your silence, you have already moved on. You have detached, you are free, but they are not. They remain trapped in circles, trying to reconstruct a truth that never existed, and in doing so, they give you power without your presence. You haunt them not because of what you did, but because you did not finish the sentence. You are unforgettable, not because of your action, but because of your absence. They cannot let go of what never ended. This is not cruelty. This is positioning, strategic absence, psychological leverage. People believe power is about being louder, bolder, faster. They think it comes from constant action, but real power is subtler. Real power is shifting the axis of control without raising your voice, without lifting your hand. Real power is becoming the unsolved variable in someone else's equation. And because they cannot solve you, they orbit you. They circle endlessly around the gap you left, unable to close it, unable to rest. Every time they return to that thought, your grip tightens, and you do nothing. Not because you cannot, but because you do not need to. This is how obsession is born. Not through presence, but through absence. Not through attention, but through interruption. You appear once, deeply, memorably. You create an emotional peak, a moment of passion, of laughter, of vulnerability, of intensity, and then you vanish. Nothing more, no resolution, no descent. That sharp contrast sears itself into memory. The human mind expects resolution after conflict. It knows how to heal after anger, but it does not expect disappearance after intimacy. That is the wound. A wound without closure does not heal. It festers, and so they chase. They chase the peak they never got to descend from. They replay your final words. They study your last message. They analyze the pauses, the punctuation, the timing. They cling to your silence as if decoding it will bring relief. But in doing so, they lose themselves. They forget their strength. They forget their identity. You are no longer just a person. They have turned you into a riddle. You are the question. They are the answer, endlessly searching for a shape. Even your return can be weaponized. If months pass, if years pass, and you suddenly reappear, do so with precision. No explanation, no apology. Just a vague word, a cryptic sign, a flicker of presence. Just enough to stir the ashes. You do not set the fire, they do. And they rush into the flame, not because they forgive, but because they still crave resolution. But resolution was never on offer. The puzzle was never meant to be solved. Here lies the paradox. The stronger, the more intelligent, the more emotionally disciplined a person is, the deeper this tactic cuts them. Why? Because such people are trained to rely on clarity, on logic, on understanding. They believe everything can be explained, dissected, controlled. But you deny them that. You show them a part of life that cannot be conquered. And so they spiral. Machiavelli would never frame it as cruelty. He would frame it as control. To be in control is to resist the temptation to justify, to explain, to apologize. To be in control is to allow silence to speak louder than words. Let them believe what they must. Let them decide whether you are wise, cold, principled, or mysterious. Belief is not truth. Belief is leverage. And that leverage is power. Because the less they know, the more they want to know. The more they want to know, the more they invest energy into chasing. And the more they chase, the tighter your hold. That is the paradox. That is the power. Silence is not weakness. Silence is domination. Not through presence, but through absence. Not by adding pressure, but by subtracting yourself entirely. Because when you withhold closure, you don't just end something. You ensure it never ends. And that is the Machiavellian art of silence. The absence that outlives presence. The mystery that outlives memory.